All right, and moving on, Yemen's Houthis armed group has claimed responsibility for a fresh hypersonic ballistic missile strike on an airport in central Israel. Earlier, the Israeli Defense Forces said that it had identified a missile flying from Yemen towards Israel.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a qualitative military operation targeting Lod Airport, Ben Gurion Airport.
The strike that ignited the headlines was nothing short of seismic. Reports confirmed that a $3 billion Israeli airport project came under attack, leaving behind chaos, flames, and a trail of destruction. The finger was quickly pointed toward Yemen's Houthi fighters, who claimed responsibility, boasting that they had reached deep into Israel's territory to cripple what they called a symbol of Zionist arrogance. The impact went beyond twisted steel and shattered glass. Billions of dollars in infrastructure were reduced to rubble within minutes, and the attack reverberated across the Middle East as a signal that no target, however fortified, was off limits. The U.S. response was immediate. For Washington, this was not just about defending its closest ally.
All right, and moving on, Yemen's Houthis armed group has claimed responsibility for a fresh hypersonic ballistic missile strike on an airport in central Israel.
Yemenis run for cover as Israeli airstrikes rain down on the capital Sana'a. This was one of the main targets.
It was about maintaining credibility in a region where power is measured by how decisively one responds to aggression. Within hours, American warships and long-range bombers were mobilized. Pentagon officials described it as a measured but overwhelming counterstrike. But to those on the ground in Yemen, it was apocalyptic. Entire stretches of military bases, supply depots, and missile launch sites were pounded into dust. Satellite images before and after the strikes showed the transformation vividly.
Houthi military spokesperson has confirmed the strike.
Referred to by the Israeli military as Houthi terrorist infrastructure.
Bases that once buzzed with fighters and trucks became cratered wastelands of smoke and silence. In Sana'a, the Yemeni capital, residents reported a night that felt like the end of the world. The sky was lit up with explosions, and the rumble of collapsing buildings carried across the city. Civilians huddled in basements, unable to distinguish between military and civilian targets, as fire rained down. Witnesses spoke of hospitals being overwhelmed, with casualties arriving faster than doctors could treat them. In the south near Houthis, fuel depots were obliterated, creating massive fireballs that turned night into day. The U.S. message was unmistakable. If you strike Israel, you invite annihilation.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a qualitative military operation targeting Lod Airport, Ben Gurion Airport.
It's the Sana'a International Airport. Commercial airliners, runways, and hangars, all engulfed in flames.
Yet the Houthis were defiant. Even as their strongholds lay in ruins, their leaders vowed revenge. They claimed the airport strike was only the beginning, and that their missiles could reach anywhere in Israel and beyond. Analysts noted that Iran's shadow loomed large behind the scenes. Tehran has long supported the Houthis with weapons, training, and intelligence, seeing them as a proxy to challenge U.S. and Israeli dominance.
In the occupied Jaffa region, using a hypersonic ballistic missile, Palestine 2.
The Israeli Prime Minister says it's a reprisal attack for Sunday's Houthi missile strike that penetrated several layers of air defenses.
The airport attack, therefore, was not just a Yemeni operation. It was a warning from Iran that its reach extended far beyond its borders. The U.S. counterstrike, in turn, was a message to Iran. Push too far, and you'll face direct consequences. The regional fallout was immediate. In Tel Aviv, Israeli leaders declared that red lines had been crossed. Prime ministerial speeches vowed total security restoration, promising to finish construction on the airport regardless of cost. Israeli air defenses were placed on high alert, while defense companies scrambled to adapt Iron Dome batteries to intercept long-range threats from Yemen. Across the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia quietly welcomed the U.S. strikes. Riyadh has fought its own war with the Houthis for years, and Washington's sudden ferocity against their mutual enemy was seen as overdue. The Saudis, however, remained cautious, aware that escalation could reignite conflict within their own borders. Internationally, reactions split along predictable lines. Western allies defended the U.S. response, citing the need to protect vital infrastructure and deter further escalation.
Earlier, the Israeli Defense Forces said that it had identified a missile flying from Yemen towards Israel,
landing near Ben Gurion International Airport in Tel Aviv, closing it for several hours.
But critics pointed to the humanitarian cost in Yemen, a country already devastated by years of war and famine. Images of children pulled from rubble flooded social media, fueling outrage and sparking protests in London, Paris, and New York. The United Nations called for restraint, warning that the spiral of attacks and counterattacks threatened to engulf the region in yet another prolonged war. But restraint was in short supply. The US and Israel saw weakness as an invitation for more attacks. The Houthis and their backers saw defiance as survival. What made the situation even more volatile was the symbolism of the airport itself. It wasn't just an economic project, it was a national showcase, a hub meant to attract tourism, business, and international prestige. By striking it, the Houthis had struck at Israel's sense of invulnerability. Airports are symbols of connection, modernity, and openness to the world. Their destruction sends a chilling message that no one is safe, not even in the civilian heart of a nation.
which was intercepted by Israel's aerial defense systems. The Houthis, which control much of northern Yemen,
I said that the Houthi attack would not be met with the one-and-done strike, but with multiple blows.
In response, the U.S. chose to level entire swaths of Yemen, reinforcing the notion that modern warfare is as much about psychological dominance as physical control. Military analysts describe the U.S. strike as a shock-and-awe operation reminiscent of early Iraq campaigns. Precision-guided munitions were dropped on radar stations, communication hubs, and missile stockpiles. Navy destroyers in the Red Sea launched Tomahawk missiles with deadly accuracy, targeting underground bunkers believed to house senior Houthi commanders. Drones buzzed overhead, tracking movements and relaying live footage to command centers thousands of miles away. The overwhelming technological superiority of the U.S. left little doubt about the immediate outcome.
including the capital Sana'a, have been launching attacks against Israeli targets since November 2023.
So yesterday we delivered a blow, a heavy strike on the port of Hodeidah. Today our aircraft attacked the airport in Sana'a.
To show solidarity with the Palestinian people amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza.
Yemen's ability to launch further strikes was crippled, but whether it was permanently destroyed remained in question. On the streets of Washington, the political calculus played out. Hawks praised the administration for standing firmly by Israel and showing Iran that provocations would not go unanswered. Critics, however, accused the White House of escalating a regional proxy war into a direct confrontation. They warned that every bomb dropped in Yemen was another opportunity for radicalization, another child who would grow up viewing the U.S. as the enemy. The debate mirrored past American interventions, clear military victories on paper, but murky long-term consequences that could entangle the U.S. in decades of conflict. In Yemen, ordinary citizens bore the brunt. Already trapped in one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, they now faced fresh devastation. Water supplies were cut off after infrastructure damage. Markets were closed, and fuel shortages threatened to grind daily life to a halt. Human rights organizations pleaded for immediate aid corridors, warning of famine if relief could not reach affected regions. The destruction wasn't just military, it was societal. Schools collapsed, power grids failed, and families were torn apart. For many Yemenis, the conflict between the Houthis, Israel, and the U.S. was a war they never asked for, yet one they could not escape. The larger question remained, was this the start of a wider war, or a brutal but contained exchange? Israel vowed reconstruction and retaliation. The U.S. declared mission success, but hinted at readiness for further action. The Houthis, bloodied but not broken, promised more strikes. Iran watched carefully, measuring Washington's will and Israel's vulnerability. Saudi Arabia calculated whether to intervene more aggressively or keep its distance. The region, always on edge, now teetered between escalation and fragile stability. History has shown that wars often begin not with one decisive strike, but with a chain of events that spirals out of control. A $3 billion airport lies in ruins. Yemen smolders under waves of U.S. firepower. Both sides claim victory, yet both suffer profound losses. And the Middle East, once again, stands at the edge of a storm that could engulf nations far beyond its borders. What began as a single attack has become a test of resolve, a clash of pride, and a reminder that in this region, fire and dust are never far from the horizon.